something that's dear to my heart, especially when this poor, ignorant, woke person said we need to change the flag. You know, I kind of know what Jesus was talking about when he told one of the churches. He said, you say I can see, but you don't, and I'm rich and have need of nothing, but you don't know you're poor, miserable, and blind. The woke crowd is poor, miserable, and blind because they're about to sell themselves into slavery. And you have no clue what's coming. And so, yeah, critical race theory, sure enough, will put you on the critical list. It will put everything on the critical list. You need to really get woke. Wake up to what the Word says in the freedom that God gave us. Now, back to the flag. I need to address this because it is the standard we call Old Glory. It is the standard that was put together to let slavery and tyrannical rule know we are coming. Or as we would say, tell tyrants. And when we unroll that flag, it's like tell tyrants and slave owners we pulling up. And you about to go down. So to change the flag, of course they would want to change that. But I got to thinking about that when they said that about the flag. And the flag, to me, I thought of a song I heard when I was a little boy that Johnny Cash sang. I remember hearing the song. And this song was about a young man who was a Pima Indian, a Native American of the Pima tribe. He lived in Arizona. And he was poor. I want you to listen to this. And the government at the time had taken their water rights. And they lived out there in that desert country, and they'd taken their water rights. They were poor, they were starving, they couldn't grow any crops without water. And he was just a boy from the Pima tribe. And so, but he got educated, and when he graduated, he joined the Marine Reserves. When he joined the Marine Reserves, then he volunteered for I guess they called it paratroopers back then. He volunteered for that. Well, he was sent into war, World War II. His father was a World War I veteran. So, now remember, the government is starving his tribe. And so he goes into war, and they say this, we're going to have to go and fight on this place called Iwo Jima. And what was it? Am I saying it right? Was it Mount Suribachi was the highest place there? Maybe I'm saying that. I don't. And so he ends up there fighting. He's a brave young man. He's a real quiet man. And so one of our commanders, the Japanese were dug in, and it was really bad. I mean, it was horrible. And so there was so many troops and landed, and they let them come inland, and then they opened up on them. And so one of the leaders said, take this flag and get up to the top of that hill and put it on a pole of some kind and stand it up so that it can, people all around, our troops can see we've taken that high spot right there. So one went up and did it. Then when they came back down, another one said, then they finally determined it's not big enough, they can't see it. So they're standing there, and these 5 men, I think, volunteered, and one of them was this young Pima. Now, remember, he's about to pick up a flag, risk his life, fly it on the top of this hill for a nation that's killing his people with their laws, their crooked laws. It wasn't the nation doing it. It was the serpent spirit that got involved with the nation at that time that was trying to take control. And so he takes the flag with the others. They head up the hill, and they put this flag, this big, it's a lot bigger one that everybody could see. And about that time, they all stood up, and they started pushing that flag up on the top of that mountain. And it's an iconic picture to this day. And the one in the back that you see the pole, as they pushed it up, it kind of left his hand about that far, is this young Pima. And his name was Ira Hayes. Now I had to ask myself, why would a man be willing to risk everything to fly that flag, Old Glory, on top of that mountain? Than in anybody else, in this woke crowd's mind, is the government that's killing his people. What would make them do that? What would make the Navajo code talkers give their lives as they were taken prisoners in these wars? To represent a nation that the woke crowd would say is taking everything they've got and stole their land and killing them all. It's because something was recognized down on the inside of them. Something pulled at the inside of them. And like with Ira Hayes, I just cannot help but believe that young man down on the inside of him looked at a standard to put on top of that mountain. The standard didn't represent what the government was doing to his people. The standard didn't represent everything that anyone could see that was unfair. That standard represents, as soon as it's flown, tyranny is going to start bowing its knee. And underneath that battle flag, we can destroy slavery and tyranny. Somehow I think that's what pulled at him. You say, you don't know that? No, I don't know that, but you don't know it either. But something made that young Pima go up that mountain and do what he did. There was 45 people in his group, and 5 survived, and he was one of them. And what's amazing to me is when he came back, they found out what had happened, and the president brought them back, those that raised that flag, and they brought them back, and they were celebrated everywhere, and they wined and dined. And when they asked Ira Hayes, they said, one reporter said, what do you think about all this publicity? How do you like it? He dropped his head and said, I don't. He said, I don't. He said, all the heroes are dead over there. He said, let me go back and fight. Let me go back. And they wouldn't let him go. Let me go back. They didn't know what PTSD was back then. And so he started drinking. And he's thinking on this. He can't stand it. He never said, I regret raising the flag. He said, I wish that picture had never been taken. It wasn't the flag. It was when everybody tried to make him the hero. And he said, the heroes are dead. And so he started drinking. He couldn't hold a job. People would treat him like he was a sideshow. And then one morning at 32 years old, they found him face down in 2 inches of water in a ditch with 2 inches of water that the serpent spirit had stole the rest. And Ira Hayes was an American hero. And so changing the flag, you tell me what's going to give the next minority, young man or woman, the courage to charge that hill and raise that flag. You start changing the ideas of that thing, and you will strip them of their hope and their freedom. Because no, the nation isn't perfect. But every time Old Glory is unfurled, there's a little more tyranny falling. And it is our standard to fight under. And we will fight. And we have to start in the spirit. And then men and women would do it in the natural if necessary. But this is freedom we're talking about. Don't reach into the tree of the knowledge of good and evil and become a woke crowd that your eyes may be opened. For it is designed to make you a slave. It is designed for that. I'm going to stand here as a prophet and point my finger straight at the camera. Can they see me in this camera? I'm going to point my finger straight at that, and I'm going to tell you something. Joe Biden is not the president. Kamala Harris is not the vice president. And the woke crowd is attempting to create an illusion and present it as a fact. Dismantling has begun, and everything is going down now that they have planned against this nation. So get ready for that. And I'm telling crooked politicians something. Repent before your God. I watched one major player, huge player, speak. And all he talked about was how his relationship with God. He tried his best. He was all the way back to this. No matter how the crowd booed him, no matter what they said against him, all he would really come back to was this: I made Jesus Christ the Lord of my life. Because when it comes down to it, that's all that matters. Even though his political career will soon end, he wants to know he's right with God.